Good day, grade 8s. Today's lesson is about microorganisms. Now, what are microorganisms? Firstly, they are living things. They are alive. And micro means very small. So they are usually too small to see with the naked eye. They can mostly only be seen under a microscope. And there are a variety of microorganisms. There are many different types, but the 4 types that you need to know of are viruses, bacteria, protists, and fungi. And you can see that there are many different kinds of viruses and many different kinds of bacteria, as well as protists, and as well as many different types of fungi. But the 4 main groups of microorganisms that you must know about are these 4: viruses, bacteria, protists, and fungi. Now, some of the microorganisms are very harmful because they cause diseases. And when they cause diseases, we call them pathogens. Now, these disease-causing organisms are found almost everywhere. You can find them on door handles, toilets, staircases, the droplets in the air we breathe. So they are basically everywhere. Now, the first thing that you need to know is some diseases that are caused by viruses. Now, firstly, AIDS is caused by the HI virus. There's a picture of the HI virus. And COVID-19 is caused by the coronavirus. And there is a picture of what the coronavirus looks like. They look very similar, but there are certain differences. So we need to prevent infection with viruses. And how do we do that? And I think after the COVID-19 pandemic, you all know the answer to this question. You should wash your hands thoroughly. You should disinfect surfaces. We can wear protective clothing like masks to prevent contracting the virus, and then also to maintain social distancing from a person who is already affected. So these 2 illnesses are caused by viruses. It's AIDS and COVID-19. Then there are also diseases caused by bacteria. An example of such an illness is tuberculosis or TB. It normally affects the lungs of a person. The bacteria grows in the lungs of a person. And the symptoms for TB is normally a persistent cough and then fever and weight loss. But luckily we can treat TB, and the treatment for TB is through antibiotics. So that is the antibiotics is a medicine that can kill the bacteria causing TB. Now we also get waterborne bacterial diseases like cholera and diarrhea. And these illnesses cause many deaths as well as many child deaths. And those 2 illnesses, these waterborne bacterial diseases, are caused by contaminated water and food. So we cannot drink dirty water, and we cannot eat food that is contaminated with this bacteria. Then you are going to get very ill. So it's important to make sure that the water you drink is clean, and that the food you prepare, before you prepare the food, you must make sure it's washed and cleaned and cooked well so that the bacteria are killed. Now, there's also diseases caused by protists. And an example of that is malaria. Now, we all know that malaria is a life-threatening disease. And this protist, this organism that causes this illness, malaria, is transmitted to humans by specific or certain mosquitoes, the Anopheles mosquito. It's not all mosquitoes, but the certain type of mosquito can carry this microorganism over to humans when they sting you. And then you can contract malaria. But the treatment is to treat the patient with medication that can kill the protists causing the malaria. Now, the question is, can we prevent these things from happening? How can we prevent infections with microorganisms or the spoilage of food? Now, Louis Pasteur, he was a scientist, and he already discovered this answer in the 1860s. Now, he's very well known for the process of pasteurization. He invented a method of heating food to a certain temperature to kill bacteria and to prolong the quality of food, and that process was called pasteurization. And he also invented some vaccines, the very first vaccines. So Louis Pasteur was this very well-known scientist that he worked on microorganisms, and he found ways to prevent these harmful microorganisms from affecting us. But luckily, the good news is that there are also very useful microorganisms that we use in everyday life and in food. Now, the most important, or one of the very important microorganisms that we have is the organisms like fungi, bacteria, and some protists. They can break down dead plant and animal matter. And since we've learned about food chains and food webs, we know that this is how nutrients in the soil are recycled in in ecosystems. And then I just want to make you aware, mushrooms and bacteria are some of the decomposers, but mushrooms are macroscopic. You can see them with the naked eye. They are not microscopic, although they fall under the group of microorganisms. And then other useful microorganisms that we use every day is the yeast that we use in the making of bread and wine and beer. We can also use good bacteria in the making of yogurt and cheese and amasi. And then we also have bacteria in fermented food like pickles. If you pickle cabbage or cucumbers or anything, then those are the good bacteria that ferments the food, that makes the food even more nutritious. And then some fungi and some bacteria can produce antibiotics like penicillin. So then some of the good microorganisms actually produce antibiotics to treat other illnesses like penicillin. So the next thing that you should do is to answer the quiz to see how much you learned today. Good luck with the quiz.